Good evening. We're going to get started. We have a quorum. Alderman Burris, who's the chair of this committee, is not here tonight, so I'm going to chair in her stead. Could we have approval of the minutes of the May 5th meeting?
Minutes.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Are there any additions, corrections? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. On the citizens' comments, we have people who want to speak on particular items, so I'll just wait until we get to those items. Is that okay? The first item for discussion tonight is the controlled substances, and we do have one speaker. Is it Marco? Is that Pevis? Okay. All right, great.
I want to say hi to the Human Services Committee and thank you for pushing this through to the committee. So the City of Evanston has already taken significant steps towards better controlled substance policies with its 10-gram marijuana decriminalization and the unanimous approval of the 10-gram decriminalization. Since the implementation of this ordinance, we've seen approximately 40 fewer individuals' lives being destroyed by incarceration each year. So progressive policies like these aren't about saying that these substances don't carry significant harms with them. What we are saying is that incarceration and its massive negative effects on individuals and communities are not the way to deal with these harms. We can take proactive stances. We can put together naloxone programs, needle exchanges, subsidized methadone. We can require pharmacies to dispose of biohazard waste. For the Evanston Police Department or the Fire Department, with just 1 cc of naloxone in a retractable syringe, an opiate overdose can be easily prevented and a life saved. What I've realized over the course of volunteering at the Chicago Recovery Alliance HIV and Overdose Prevention Program is that when opportunities are provided to individuals to make positive changes in their lives, people tend to take those opportunities. At minimum, we need to remove the incarceration penalty in the paraphernalia ordinance, but we should really be looking at removing the ordinance entirely so that individuals can take positive steps towards improving their and their community's health by not being denied access to clean needles and overdose prevention. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any lights. Alderman Fish, you wanted this referred back to the committee. Did you want to add anything?
Yes, it would be really helpful, I think, for us to have Yvonne Thomas's comments. Is Yvonne here? She's not here.
Yvonne's
Okay.
not here.
Well, maybe at the next Human Services Committee meeting.
Well, no, Erica will speak to it.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, we just wanted to bring this back this month at the request of Alderman Fisk. There was a brief memo in the packet regarding some policies in Europe and how they've had positive effects on the population. So we wanted to bring this back for discussion tonight to see if there was interest from the committee on entertaining any of the other suggestions that were brought forth in that memo and from Mr. Pavicic.
Well, I certainly would. I'd certainly like to move ahead. And thank you for coming. You're just an eloquent speaker, and I really appreciate both your concern and your commitment and your willingness to put your money where your mouth is and get here and bring this to our attention, because otherwise it wouldn't have come to our attention. So thank you. I'd also like to get some input from our police chief and all the other folks that are involved on the city level with how drugs reach people and how they touch their lives, not only for them, but for their family members and for everyone else who's subject to incarceration, and how that really does destroy lives, in some cases unnecessarily.
I think it was noted in the memo that the arrests had declined by 46%, which I thought was great, and that there was another 69% now result in tickets rather than arrests, which also seemed to be a good start. Yeah. Anyone else? Alderman Grover.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Pavicic. Close enough. I think we should be interested in looking at our ordinance on the possession of drug paraphernalia. I don't know what it says or what the penalties are And then there would be, I think, a lot of other folks in Evanston, in addition to folks from the city, who would be interested in commenting on any proposed changes to our possession laws, and that would be the Evanston Substance Abuse Council and
Kay Mahoney and that
Kay
group.
Mahoney at Peer Services, and I don't recall what her response was when we decriminalized possession of fewer than 10 grams 3 years ago. But we had some good, interesting discussions around it, and would want to be sure to include all of those folks if we continue with this. So, if we're continuing this discussion to the next meeting, perhaps a copy of the pertinent ordinances, and then additional commentary from stakeholders, our police chief, and health director.
Okay. Great. Alderman Tindem?
Thank you. I do think that when we did pass the ordinance to decriminalize marijuana use under a certain amount or possession, I did have some contact with the Evanston Substance Abuse Councils at the high school, and they felt that we could have done a better job in getting out the word that this was not an endorsement or a lack of law regarding the use of marijuana. It was simply the measure had more to do with our criminal process, in that we could have and probably should have done a better program of helping people understand better, parents and teens, whatever, that of the use of marijuana and its side effects and its potential dangers, that it's not, our action was by no way an indication of our any lacks in our opinion of what this drug and the harm it can do. So I think that, if we proceed with those kind of things, any sort of relaxing or changing of ordinances, we need to be very clear that why we're doing it, and the fact that drugs are still quite harmful, and like alcohol, if someone is predisposed or has a tendency for abuse, drugs are as likely to be the problem as alcohol or any other dependency. I do support clean needle exchange and overdose prevention. I think those are things that we could work very seriously to incorporate into our emergency services and other services that we provide as far as health services in the city. We did have a needle exchange here for a number of years. It wasn't well known to general community, but it was done through an organization called Beehive, and it was quite successful. And now that Beehive is no longer in existence, I don't know that any other organization has truly picked up that piece. So I do fully support those kind of measures and hope we can advance on those too.
Great. Well, then I think what we'll ask is that, and I'm going to say either the July or August meeting, and the reason why I'll say that is because I don't know how long it'll take staff to pull all this together. So maybe the August meeting rather than the July, asking Director Thomas Smith as well as Chief Eddington and any other staff that may be involved in trying to pull together the agencies that would have input into it as well for some kind of report to us. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. We don't need to take any other action on that. All right. Items for consideration. The first one would be H2, which is the review of the May police complaints. If not, could we have a motion to accept them unless somebody has comments on them? It's been moved and second. All in favor? Okay, HH3, consideration of the meritorial recommendation for the City Council's involvement in Cradle to Career. And we have one speaker, Ms. Lindwall.
Hi, good evening. Thanks. I'm Jean Lindwall, 625 Library Place. I would like to speak in support of the city's involvement and the $50,000 contribution to this. I think that I watched on TV at the last meeting, so I have not been involved in any of these meetings, but I think as many of you know, I'm a city planner by training. And much of my work over the last decade or so has been in working with neighborhood plans for low-income neighborhoods. In the last 2 years, I've been involved with developing neighborhood plans around 2 public housing sites, one in Rockford, Illinois, and one in Austin, Texas. And both were awarded planning grants through a really competitive HUD program called Choice Community or Choice Neighborhoods. And what is really clear about the directive coming out of HUD and other, the Department of Education and other federal agencies is that a collaborative program approach to holistically dealing with issues in poverty and lack of academic achievement is really, really critical. And as I was watching the discussion at the last meeting, one of the things I noted was there seemed to be kind of this focus on, if the city is funding agencies through the Mental Health Board, that maybe that could be the city's contribution. And I'd like to point out that really, if you look at the city's, how the city of Evanston impacts young people's lives, you just have to look at your summer camps and recreation programs, which touch hundreds and hundreds of kids. And what little of research that I've seen, I mean, there certainly is an achievement gap over the summer between the kids whose parents can afford to send them to enrichment activities and parents who can't. And so I think that Evanston is the city of Evanston is a really important partner to this effort. With respect to, and I think that what is really exciting is this notion of a shared performance system and shared metrics, so that you really can, the city may collect certain data on the kids in their summer programs, for example, that could be coupled with information that the school districts have on student achievement, and really create a much more robust and dynamic educational system. Again, I think that the steering committee notion is important in terms of all the partners, especially the major players, have to hold each other accountable for success. And I think that it's pretty clear that that's how this program is evolving. The solution design teams are, again, a real important function. But there are a couple of things that I wanted to really, I'm a little concerned about the idea that Northwestern should be the main data collection point. I think in an effort like this, having a dedicated staff, I think the recommendation was initially executive director and a data analyst, is really critical to the success. It's a model. No one organization can commit those kinds of resources. And again, the notion of a shared collective model means that everybody has input into the executive director position. In the choice neighborhood efforts that I've been involved in, we have used university resources for certain research. And one of the things that we've learned in doing that is, universities and the classes that may be collecting the information, they have a slightly different agenda than the collective impact model. The classes are, the research may be focused on a particular, getting a graduate student their master's thesis topic, which may or may not be exactly the kind of research that is needed to move the vision forward. So while I think that Northwestern can and should be an important resource, I don't necessarily think that the city's participation should hinge on, them being the resource. So with that, I really think that this is exciting, and I hope you will participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anything from the staff on this?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the Human Services Committee. Joe McRae, Deputy City Manager and Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things just for the sake of all the attendees today. You have before you a memo that was basically authored by the mayor and drafted by me. So I just want to touch on the highlights of her thoughts in terms of what we should consider, what the city should consider in terms of participating in this Cradle to Career initiative from her perspective. And so number one is that that we have a council member serve on the planning committee, and that would be the Honorable Chairwoman Alderman Holmes, that we would have a city council representative on the formal steering committee when it was created, that the steering committee would include a member of the community of the initiative's target population, that Northwestern would in fact serve as a collector of data for the initiative, and there's been some discussion that's been had about that already, that the city would have input on the data to be collected and the metrics to be measured, and that all the data would be public and accessible to all the entities involved. And so those were the mayor's comments. I think basically what we're looking for tonight is just direction from the committee on how you would like staff to proceed with this particular initiative, and if you would like us to go forward. We have with us tonight some members from the planning committee, and I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Alderman Fisk?
Thank you, and thank you, Joe. Thank you, everyone who's participated in this. I certainly hope we'll move forward with it. It's one of the single best programs I've seen since I've been on the council, and I think sorely needed at a very, very reasonable cost. So thank you all for all of the time you've put into that. I heard what Ms. Lindwall said about, and I do agree that Northwestern is probably the best choice in terms of having the resources to collect and use the data, but should not be the sole resource to interpret the data or to decide what is collected. And I'm sure the committee will be doing that together. So it's, I think that will be covered. So I hope that we'll support this and send it on to council.
Okay. Alderman Grover?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McRae. Thank you, Ms. Lindwall, very much. I very much agree with all of your comments. And I think that the mayor's recommendations are all in line with our previous conversation on this at the council. Whether the university becomes the collector of the data or just simply an additional resource for collection and analyzation of data, I don't know. The mayor is suggesting these as recommendations and guidelines, not strict rules, but these are considerations that she wants to be part of the steering committee's deliberations. And so I think we can. And I would be looking to then move this back to council with the mayor's recommendations.
Okay. No other Alderman Tindall.
Yes, thank you. I would certainly support this as well. I'm thinking that I like the role of the university taking an important role in this, because I think that's certainly an entity apart from a lot of the community organizations that have known to work with each other so long, and I think they can provide a different opinion, a different viewpoint, and certainly have the expertise and the brain power to do that, the personnel to do that. So I like that idea. And I like the fact that we can hopefully just move forward and send this to council as of this evening. I know the mayor is encouraged and would like to do the same, and I think it's a good plan, and we should go with it.
Okay, well, it's been moved. Is there your second? Is that a second then, Alderman Tindall?
Yes.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Are there any additions? No? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we'll send it on to council.
Thank you.
Okay, next is HH4, the approval of sublease amendments to the Evanston Wilmette Golf Course Board lease. Okay, Alderman Grover moves approval. Alderman Tindall second. Any other comments? If not, it's been moved and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have no Alderman Fisk.
Are we moving on to new business or
Well, I
just
was going to say we had no
communications?
communications, but yes, we can take new business.
Okay, can I just make a comment about the Evanston Animal Shelter, just to
Yes.
let the committee know? I have been over to the shelter since CARE left, and I think the volunteers there, along with the animal warden, are doing a fabulous job. A large number of animals have been adopted and or placed in foster homes, and the shelter is clean and welcoming, and I couldn't be prouder of the work that they've done in a short period of time. I hope they'll march in the 4th of July parade.
Oh, nice.
So maybe the committee can invite them to do that.
Alderman Tinder?
Thank you. I've run into and talked with a number of volunteers who have been working very hard at the shelter. The feedback is all good. The relationship between the volunteers and the city, especially the police department, is excellent. And like Alderman Fisk said, it's the facility itself is much improved, just with a general clean up, clean out, and I think there's probably a little more space than we ever thought there was over there. So I think we're on the right track. And I'm anxious to get to the point where we can start partnering with someone to guide us to have the best shelter that we can have, most livable shelter in America.
Okay, we have one other item of new business. You want to introduce? Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I wanted to introduce our newest staff member who will be staffing the committee with us next month. Her name is Jessica Wingeter. She is standing in the back. Sorry, so now she's standing. Melissa Parker has been promoted to work in the Parks and Recreation Department, so we appreciate her efforts with us the last few months, and we wish her well.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll miss you. Absolutely, and welcome, Jessica. That is, if there's no new business, no other new business, I should say, then is there a motion for adjournment? Fantastic, it's been moved in second. We are adjourned. See you next month. Thank you.